It is a great honor today to be interviewing this handsome, charming man. You don't think of a lawyer as handsome and charming and all that, but you are. You're a great guy. And the reason I had you on here today is dentists always want to learn about root canals, fillings, and crowns. They would literally walk from Phoenix to Seattle to see John Comitz talk about full mouth reconstruction. And you are an expert. You're in my backyard, and I know from all my friends that you're probably the smartest guy in Arizona on doctors' disability. No, you are. That's what all my friends tell me. And I believe it because you went to Creighton University. And that's where I
right.
went. And you were born smart. You're Creighton smart. Creighton made you that way. At least I want to believe that. But disability. It's just something that seriously, no one wants to think about disability. But so I'm going to ask you the first question. I'm going to start at basics. Last week, I went to the AT Still graduation, and America had 56 schools. They dumped out 5,000 dentists now, and they're entering the world. And they are probably going to have to come to this decision. Do I need disability? What would you say? I'm going to paint this. Don't look at me at a 52-year-old dentist for 20 years who's already raised my kids, and if I got ran over by a car, probably don't want to know it for a week. But if you're 25 years old and you have $250,000 of student loans, and you're trying to eat and survive off ramen noodles and craft dinner,
Right.
does a 25-year-old kid with $250,000 of student loans need to buy disability insurance? Let's start with that.
Yeah, the answer is yes, especially for dentists. Because of the type of work you do, you're surgeons and you're working every day in a mouth in these prolonged static positions, you're more susceptible than any other occupation to musculoskeletal issues like cervical issues, lumbar issues, carpal tunnel syndrome. About 1 in 4 Americans file for long-term disability insurance benefits. And with dentists, about half of
1 in 4 total Americans.
That's correct.
Okay.
And for dentists, about half of them at some point will have to slow down and alter their careers because of issues with their musculoskeletal process.
Well, I have to tell you that I got out of school at 24, now 52. All I do is I'm always walking around cranking my neck. Starting at 50, the only way I could get rid of the pain without ibuprofen or Tylenol aspirin, I had to start doing a hot Bikram yoga, which now I'm addicted to. And people say, why do you love hot Bikram yoga? Well, I don't love hot Bikram yoga. I like that when I'm driving and I turn my head to see if I can cross the lane, I don't get an electrical shot up my neck.
Right.
But I'm still always doing this, and so I've completely jacked up my neck. I tell the young kids, get loops, sit up straight. And it was just so tempting to lean my 10-pound bowling ball over and look directly in the mouth. And I think I did it for pretty much yesterday. I'm still doing it.
I mean, Howard, I've had a discectomy and double fusion in my own neck. And so I suffered myself from a lot of pain. I can still practice as an attorney, but if I had to be a dentist, I don't know how I would do it. But
tell us what you said to your mother that made her slap you so hard that you had to get your 2 vertebrae fused.
I went surfing at age 40.
Oh, is that what it was? That was a surfing accident?
Yeah.
So your head hit the water?
My head hit a rock, and I ruptured two discs really badly, and had to have emergency surgery.
Wow.
So I was in a lot of pain for a lot of years.
Where was that at?
That was in Laguna.
Wow. Sorry about that, buddy.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So you would tell a kid if they said to you, "Come on, Ed, I got $250,000 student loans. I got a car payment." Tell this kid? So you're saying the kid should get disability insurance?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. I think that when you're right out of dental school, you don't have a lot of medical problems. Okay, so you're going to be able to qualify for the best disability insurance policy, and you're going to be able to get a pretty good benefit amount. So it's important to get a true own occupation policy from a reputable company. and to get it in the highest amount. Otherwise, if you're practiced for 5 years or 10 years, things can happen. You might go and see a doctor because you're having some sort of issue, and then they exclude that issue. So the best time for a dentist, because it's really a high-risk profession, to get disability insurance is right out of school.
So even though they've passed Obamacare, which got rid of pre-existing conditions, that's for your health insurance, that would not apply to your disability insurance.
That's right. That's right. They interview you. And they ask about any pre-existing conditions, and you have to disclose them on your application. And if you have them, they typically exclude them.
Okay, why don't you go through? First of all, I'm just trying to estimate questions based on there's probably going to be 5,000 people listening to this all around the world. So I'm trying to always estimate questions. First of all, are all disability policies the same? I mean, is it like is a hamburger, or what would you be looking for in a disability premium?
Right. It's not like life insurance. Life insurance, you die, you collect the indemnity. With disability insurance, there are different types of policies. So you can buy an individual policy. These are ones that you get through an independent agent, for example, through companies like Guardian or MetLife or Mass Mutual. Or you can get a policy through, for example, through the American Dental Association, a group policy, and there's some differences on those types of policies. That's through Great West, then the individual policies. And lastly, you can have an employer-sponsored plan where your employer provides disability insurance to you. Of those three types of insurance, the best to have is individual insurance. Individually issued policies, like if you were to buy a policy directly from the Guardian, for example, are the best. They have the best language. They're governed by state law. And the benefits of state law, for example, if you're in Arizona or California or a similar state, is that if the insurance company acts unreasonably in the administration of your claim, you can collect not only the breach of contract amount, which is the indemnity, but you can get interest, attorney's fees, bad faith damages, and potentially punitive damages. Now, if you had an Erisa policy, one that's provided through your employer, things are much different. With Erisa policies, a federal statute applies, and it's called Erisa. And what that statute does is it requires that you file an appeal from the denial of your claim. And once the appeal is considered by the insurance company that denied your claim to begin with, your only recourse is to file in federal court instead of state court. And state courts are typically much more liberal. Once you're in federal court, you have a judge, no jury, and the judge typically will review the record on appeal and only overturn the insurance company's decision if it was arbitrary and capricious, meaning that there was not a single rational basis for the decision. So, and then even if you win on an Erisa appeal, the most that you typically can get, or the most that you can get, is your back benefits and a discretionary award of attorney's fees. So the individual claims allow you a lot more in terms of damages, and the insurance companies will treat you on the claim side much better on an individual claim than they will on an Erisa claim. Group policy that's not an employer-sponsored policy like the one that Great West has with the American Dental Association, that policy is a good policy, but with the group policies, one of the key differences is that the insurance company and the insured, Great West and the American Dental Association, can change the terms of that policy at any time. They'll provide notice to you that they're changing the terms of the policy. They might say, okay, we're going to exclude certain types of conditions. You'll receive notice of that, but unless you're really fastidious about looking at your mail and trying to understand what you get from insurance companies, the policy that you bought might be different than the policy that you get later on down the road. Also, with the group policies and the Erisa policies, there are typically exclusions for mental health conditions or limitations for mental health conditions where they only pay for a couple of years. And there are exclusions for conditions that are not objectively verifiable. So as a dentist, my strong recommendation is that when you're buying a policy, the best type of policy to buy is an individual policy. So once you've decided that you're going to buy an individual policy, the next thing you have to think of is, what type of individual policy do I want to get? You want to get one that has a true own occupation definition. And what that means is that if you are unable to work in your primary occupation, which is dentistry. You want to be able to collect the full amount of the benefit, and you want to be able to work in another occupation if possible. So those policies will say that total disability means that you're unable to work in your own occupation, and therefore it allows you this opportunity to kind of double dip. Now, there are a lot of policies that don't provide true own occupation coverage, but that look like they do. And so it's important to realize, for example, there are policies that say you're totally disabled if you can't work in your own occupation and you're not employed in another occupation. If you have that type of modified own occupation policy, you need to realize that you're not going to be able to go and be a dental school professor after you file a claim. You're going to be stuck with the indemnity amount. So if you have that type of policy, you need to make sure that the indemnity amount is enough to support you as you get older. I would recommend that you not buy that sort of policy. Another thing to look for is cost of living adjustments. You want to make sure that your benefit increases with inflation. You want to make sure that there are not any specific exclusions or limitations in your policy. If you have a family history, for example, of anxiety disorders or depression, that sort of thing, and that might be something that could disable you later on down the road, you want to make sure your policy doesn't have that type of limitation in it.
So in your years and years of doing this, what typically disables a dentist? I mean, what is it like? Number one, is it like a car wreck? Is it?
It's interesting that you say that because, the majority of my clients, almost all of my clients are doctors. Of those, probably 85 to 90% are dentists specifically. And so what disables dentists is their work. What disables dentists is, day in and day out, having to work in these difficult positions. And it's basically arthritis in your neck, in your back, radiculopathy, like you talked about, that you were experiencing in your neck if you turned it a certain way. These conditions are slowly progressive. Right, I do that too. These conditions are slowly progressive, and they're typically the conditions that disable doctors. The majority of my clients have neck issues, followed by back issues, and then repetitive stress injuries with their hands.
You know what? What I'm smelling here is we put up 307 courses on Dental Town, and they just passed 500,000 views. You should create an online CE course on this, and see if also in this course, if you could get someone to be trying to help them how to prevent this. Like if you said, basically what you said is 85% of your clients are dentists, and 85% of those it's work-related injury. I would have thought before I talked to you that number one would have been like a motorcycle, or number two would have been like a car, and three would have been like a Kennedy skiing into a tree or surfing in Laguna.
Right.
I just never would have guessed until you just said that a minute ago. That what'd you say? 85% is from work-related, from just doing dentistry.
85% of my clients are dentists versus, anyone in the world can come to me with a disability insurance claim, but 85% are dentists, and the vast majority of them, probably 90% or more of them, have injuries or conditions related to working as dentists.
Do you think you could find someone that could, is there any experts on how we could prevent that? You see all these new age things that went around 30 years ago, like at work, a couple of the ladies that work for me, now they sit on a ball instead of a chair. Some dentists I see on Dental Town are trying to work through a microscope just so they can look straight ahead and let the microscope turn instead of their neck turn. My neck is completely jacked. It's completely jacked, and I have to treat that with 90 minutes of hot yoga every other day, and it's probably never going to go away. The pain's gone, but it still just sounds like fireworks. But do you know of anybody?
Absolutely. There's a woman here in Phoenix. Her name is Terry Roach, and she's a world-class cyclist. I think she had a bunch of world records, and she had a company here called Body Stabilization Training. And after my accident, I went to go see her. She personally has, I believe, a fusion in her neck, a triple fusion in her neck, and she's had back surgery as well. And even after these problems, she went on to compete. So I thought, this would be a good person for me to go to see what I can do. I found out from Terry that the majority of the people who she trains are doctors, like dentists, for example, and she tells them, this is how you need to sit when you're at work, and this is how you need to practice. So she does clinics, I know, specifically for dentists on how to
what is her name?
Her name is Terry Roach.
What's her website?
I think it's bodystabilization.com or something like that. She's here in Phoenix, and she trains like firefighters and
can you fix me out with her? Do you know
Absolutely.
her as a friend? Emails, yeah. That might be a great 1-2 punch. She could talk about, let's try to not have this happen, and then you could talk about or maybe a separate course or in the same course about how to how to select the right,
how to handle it. What I'm all about is like showing people how to select the right policy, and then once their policy is denied or terminated, that's when I come in. I represent dentists who are having trouble collecting on their policies, or whose policies have been denied or terminated. I mean, we have friends in common who, have gone through this disability insurance process, and it's amazing how hard the companies fight to not pay the benefits. I mean, we both know someone who, broke his back and arm in a million pieces, and the insurance company was fighting through their own biased doctors to say, hey, I think that you can go back to work as a dentist, not taking into consideration the fact that this person had radiculopathy and numbness, and and that it was unsafe for him to work on patients. So it's in insurance companies' best interest, obviously, not to pay claims. And right now, with the way the economy is, there are not a lot of people buying new policies because they don't have the money to do that. So the insurance company is not getting those premium dollars coming in. And secondly, the economy is not one where we can all really readily invest. I mean, real estate's not doing very well. The stock market's not doing very well. So the companies who get these minimum premium dollars don't have great investments either. So what they do is they take a much more strict view of the management of these claims, which in other words means they try to figure out ways how not to pay claims. So even though your agent is wonderful, and most people's agents are great, and they're very knowledgeable, and they can tell you about the policies, it's very different talking to your agent versus talking to an adjuster at the time your claim is filed. And so dentists just have to be ready when they file claims. They should talk to someone beforehand, make sure that they've got all of their ducks in line, make sure that they haven't done anything or will do anything that'll prejudice their ability to collect on their policies. And unfortunately, the claim forms have a lot of trick questions on them. The insurance companies want to interview you right away. The interviewers are very adept at, soliciting great responses that can result in the denial of your claim. They'll seem like very affable, nice people, but that's how they kind of trick you into providing more information than probably what you should.
Yeah, I noticed that. So I had 4 kids, so I always had life insurance policy, and when I got a life insurance policy when I was like 25, it was nothing. 35, nothing. Man, when I turned 50 and I had to renew my policy, oh my God, I'm surprised they didn't, waterboard me. I mean, they ran so many tests and all these things, right. and but my point on that is also the premium went up a lot. And then right. I said, what did I do? And they said, well, no, wait till you turn 60. Wait till you turn. So on life insurance, it was a 10-year thing, and then at 60, I got to renew it, and then it's probably going to be like a lot more expensive. And exactly, yeah. So on this disability, how does the rate work? So I'm 25. I just got out of school. I buy a policy. Does my policy just go up with inflation? Is it a fixed limit length of time? Is it like a 10-year deal, and then after 10 years, I got to reapply again? Or how's that work?
Those are great questions. Typically, if you buy a policy right out of dental school, you'll have a set premium that will not be altered over time. So you'll pay the exact same amount, and your policy will be non-cancelable. So if you, if you're 10 years later or 20 years later, you will be able to rely on that policy. Even if a bunch of horrible things happen to you medically, the policy will still be in place. It can't be canceled, and your premiums won't go up. So that's one of the benefits.
For your whole career, your whole life?
Absolutely. And most of the policies to age 60, some of the policies have lifetime benefits. So it's something to consider when you're buying policies.
So you can buy at 25 a non-cancelable policy till you're 65.
Yes.
And that's when most of them terminate at 65, you said?
Yeah, 90% of all policies terminate at 65.
Okay, so you and I are old enough to see Enron, the seventh largest company in America, was there on Monday and gone on Tuesday. So how do I know if I buy from these companies, are they supposed to be AAA rated or a five-star bond, or how do I know which company will be there if I'm 25? How do I know what company is going to be there when I'm 65?
That's a great question. Historically, the largest company in the country was Unum Provident Corporation. And Unum Provident Corporation was a AAA rated company, and a lot of dentists were buying their insurance through that company. When the economy turned, they started becoming very aggressive with their claims management, and that resulted in the state's insurance commissioners doing a multi-state market conduct examination of their conduct and finding that they were doing things that were inappropriate. They were hiring biased medical examiners. They were, not reviewing all of the information in the file, not looking at the comorbid effect of cumulative conditions, that sort of thing, and essentially acting dishonestly. There were a bunch of lawsuits involving this company. It was their practices were on 60 Minutes and are on Dateline, and this was probably this was the largest company in the country, and a lot of dentists are still insured by this company. They ended up settling with the insurance commissioners for several $1 million and an agreement that they would stop engaging in these awful practices. But now they don't sell the insurance anymore. There's some people who have these older policies and who might have claims with Unum or Paul Revere or one of its subsidiaries. But this company that was AAA rated no longer exists because of the types of practices that they were engaged in. Or it exists, but they don't sell insurance anymore. So, in terms of what you look at with a company, obviously you want a company that's highly rated, and most, reputable agents will only sell you coverage through one of these companies. If a company goes under, there is a indemnity fund with the state that insures individuals, so that there should always be money there, even if a company goes under.
So one of the things one of my goals on Dental Town is that, a dentist has to wear so many hats. You got to learn how to do root canals and fillings and crowns. And then you got to learn HR, and you got to learn how to do payroll and taxes and meet with your accountant. It's just always something. I mean, a poor dentist has to wear literally 100 hats. So one of my goals is that I want to make decision making easier. Like if a person wanted disability, or if a person wanted malpractice or whatever, that we're calling it the Townie Perks section. And the Townie Perks section for us is like, we're going to try to make this an easier decision. And I think a lot of dentists have comfort in decision making when they say, well, this is what the Townies picked. I wish you would look into that or think about that with us, because what would be easier, instead of 130,000 dentists all trying to figure out if they should go with Guardian or MetLife or all this stuff like that, if we just had some collective deal, like an expert say, here's the best decision. So I'm going to put you on the spot right now. If I wanted to buy disability right now, who would you buy it from? Guardian, MetLife? You said Unum doesn't sell it?
That's a great question. I don't think I could give you a good answer. I mean, I could probably give you a good answer, but I've sued every one of these companies multiple times. So I don't have the best relationship with them, and I think that what you have to look at is, you have to look at the rating of the company, and all of these companies will have good ratings. There are only a handful that sell disability insurance to dentists. So you want to look at the companies, talk to an independent agent who sells all of the policies, and he can tell you about the nuances between
where does the dentist
and another.
Where does the dentist find an independent agent that sells disability?
Agent, I think that you sells disability insurance. You can look in the phone book. If you go to any of the dental conventions, there are agents that are there who sell disability insurance. And so you could just talk to some of them, see what's going on. I think it's better to have an agent who's independent rather than a captive agent. So this way the agent can say, hey, look, this policy is better than this other policy. I sell both. Yeah, this one's more expensive, but it's a better product. So that's basically what you need to look at. I mean, with all of the companies, I mean, what you need to look at, the most important thing to review is what the definition is of total disability under your policy. So you want a definition that says total disability means that you're unable to perform the material and substantial duties of your own occupation. And occupations should be in the singular, not plural. Because your occupation is defined not as of the date that you applied for, coverage, but at the time that you apply for benefits. So at the time you apply for benefits, they say, what was your occupation now? So if you have a definition of occupation that is plural, and you, let's say, have a cervical issue and you stop and you start ceasing working, or you start working 2 or 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week, and then you work over at the dental school, and then you decide that you're going to invest in real estate, the company will take the position that you are a part-time dentist, a part-time real estate investor, and a part-time professor. And it's more difficult to be considered disabled from that group of occupations than from a single occupation. So you want to make sure that the policy definition of total disability means that you're unable to perform the material and substantial duties of your own occupation. If you're a specialist, like an endodontist or a periodontist or the like, or an oral surgeon, you can buy from your agent a specialty specific rider, which means that if you become disabled, the company can't even say, oh yeah, we think that you can still return to work as a dentist. You have to be able to return to work as whatever your specialty area is. And so the most important thing is to get the good definition, an own occupation definition that is singular, not modified, doesn't say you're unable to work in your own occupation and you're not working in another occupation, or it doesn't say you're unable to work in your own occupation and that lasts 3 years, and after 3 years it's you can't work in any occupation. You want the true own occupation policy with occupation in the singular, and if you're a specialist, you want to buy a specialty specific rider. So that's what you need to look at when you're buying policies.
Hey, Ed, so if a dentist is listening to this on their commute to work and they have a specific question, do you only talk to people in the state of Arizona, or do you fight disability claims for 3 states, 50 states? How does that work?
We've represented people in multiple states. What happens is when there's litigation is we get admitted what's called pro hoc vice, which is admitted for the purpose of a particular case. So people call us from all over the country to ask us for advice. But if we have to file a lawsuit, what we do is we just get admitted in that jurisdiction for purposes of helping them with their case.
So what if my dentist is driving to work right now and she says, well, I got a very particular question. How would she ask you a question?
I mean, we have a website, disabilitycouncil.net, and on that website there is just an enormous amount of information and tips on what to do when you're filing claims, what to look at when you're buying policies. It does a little analysis of each disability insurance company and kind of what some of their practices are, so that you can kind of get an overview of what to expect. It talks about the mistakes the dentists make when filing claims and how to avoid them very specifically. So the number one thing to do would be to go to our website, disabilitycouncil.net. You could.
Yeah, spell it out for them.
It's disabilitycounsel.net.
So they could probably educate themselves on the answer.
Absolutely. And then people are free to call. There's a place on our website where people can actually ask us questions and we'll provide answers to them. What we feel as though the dental community has been so good to us that we want to give back. And one of the ways we do that is to try to provide as much information that is usable to dentists as possible. I teach a course at the Western Regional Dental Convention. It's a 3-hour course on filing disability insurance claims, what to do, what not to do. And I think
you should film that course, put that course online. That'd be an awesome deal.
I would love to.
Because online is exploding because it's just so easy. I mean, you can literally lay on your couch with your iPad and watch it, as opposed to driving all the way down to the convention center. You know what I mean?
Right. So, I mean, the problem with these policies is every policy is different, and the words are, there are limitations and exclusions that are in each policy, and it's hard for lay people to understand the policies and to understand what to do. Like you said, as a dentist, you have to wear many hats. You were trained in dental school to be a dentist, to be a good dentist, but you weren't taught how to be a business person. You weren't taught how to be an investor. You weren't taught how to deal with staff, employment issues, how to make sure that you're HIPAA compliant, OSHA compliant, what to do on a disability insurance claim, how to buy a disability insurance policy. And so what you have to do is you have to rely on other experts to help you. And I think that our website provides very useful information for dentists. And we have 3 attorneys here who practice in this area, and any one of them can be called if a dentist has a question, and we do free consultations. So if someone wants to file a claim, we're happy to talk to them.
But I went to Creighton, and my favorite Jesuit priest one Saturday, he actually came knocking on my door about 6 o'clock in the morning. I opened the door, and there's a 70-year-old Monsignor priest, and he says, "Hey, can you help me put a satellite dish on the top of the Swanson Hall?" And I'm like, "What's a satellite dish?" That was in 1980. And we went up there. It took us 12 hours, and we assembled this big old 12-foot dish. So, that's probably why I didn't learn how to use Quicken accounting and learn how to do payroll. I was setting up satellite dishes. So I'm a dentist. I already have disability insurance. I filed a disability, and they sent me a letter explaining why this isn't covered. What would be a red flag in that letter to say, wait a minute? Because dentists know more than lawyers that insurance companies take the dental insurance and don't pay the claim. Every single day we get 3 denials, and we're looking at this thing like, what do you mean this tooth doesn't need a crown or root canal? It's like, did you have Stevie Wonder look at the x-ray? How could you say that? So we dentists get it. They get it that insurance companies make money by selling premiums and not paying claims. But what's a red flag for a dentist? He gets a letter back from the insurance company. What would make you think you should show this to a third party?
Well, the number one thing is, if you're legitimately disabled, your claim should not be denied. So if you're like, look, I can't work, I'm in excruciating pain every day, and they said that I can, well, it's probably not. They probably didn't do a reasonable investigation. What the companies do quite a bit, they do a few things that people need to be made aware of. One of the things that they do is they hire their own doctors, and they get all of their own doctors to sign off on the fact that you're not disabled. They get a functional capacities person to look at the records and say, I think this dentist can still work either full-time or in a limited capacity. And the doctors are bought and paid for by the insurance companies. And so if you see serially, like, this doctor agrees with us, this doctor agrees with us, this functional capacity evaluator agrees with us, you have to kind of look at it with a skeptical eye and think, who are these people? Most of them, their bread and butter is working for this insurance company. So that's something to take into consideration. Most of the insurance companies do surveillance, and they think that that's, always going to catch you doing something, wrong. And so they'll have a snippet where, let's say you're playing tennis, or you're climbing Camelback Mountain, or you're doing something like that, but you complained of having cervical issues. Well, I know I can climb Camelback Mountain and I can play tennis, but if I have radiculopathy down my arm, and I have numbness and pain, I shouldn't be operating on a patient. If I drop my tennis racket, well, I lose the point, but I don't hurt someone. I've represented at least one dentist who dropped an instrument down to patient's throat because of radiculopathy, and the patient actually died. This dentist engages in a lot of other activities that are enjoyable, but she can't obviously work on patients. So the insurance companies think we've got an aha, we've got like you doing something that, is difficult. Now, if I climb up Camelback Mountain and back, I can do it. It's going to hurt the entire time that I'm doing it, and I'm going to suffer for days afterward. And the surveillance, while it might show a snippet in time, is not necessarily an accurate indicator on what you can and can't do in a dental chair, working in a confined space in a hunched position for long periods of time. So surveillance is one of the things that they use. The other thing that they use quite a bit is they have these in-house doctors call your doctor. And because doctors are busy and they don't have a lot of time, the in-house doctor will talk to your doctor and say, I just want to talk about this insured's condition. Can you tell me this and that about it? I'm going to send you a letter confirming our conversation. And this is actually something that happened with one of our mutual friends. Then the insurance company's attorney doctor prepares the summary and says some things in the summary that are not accurate. Gives it to the doctor, busy, doesn't know what to do, looks at it quickly, signs it, sends it back. Then we say, oh, this is not what you should have signed. It's something different. And the doctor's kind of pride gets in the way. And he says, well, actually, I do agree with that now, or whatever. And so one of the things that we do when we get involved in these claims early on, like before you actually file your claim, is we let the insurance company know that we're representing you and that all communications have to go through our office. So they can't just show up at your house and interview you. They can't just show up at your doctor's office and interview them or call your doctor. They can't send correspondence to your doctor. What they like to do is they like to do all of these things kind of on the down low so that they can gather as much information as they think is needed in order to deny your claim.
And back to these 5,000 kids that just walked out of school. What is the average age that someone gets disabled? I mean, is this something that happens to 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds? What would be the median, the mean, the mode?
I would say that most of my clients are in their mid-50s, but I have had clients, as young as like 30, 32 years old, more in their 40s, but the majority are in their 50s. In their 50s.
Yeah, that's not good. I'm 52. I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to hear 62 or 72.
Right.
That was funny. I was working out at a Lifetime yesterday, and the guy swimming next to me, turns out he's a paramedic. And I said, so how long have you been a paramedic? He goes, about 20 years. And I said, so what's the average age? I said, I'm 52. Like, what age do you start picking up guys for heart attacks like me? And he goes, pretty much they're all like you. And I'm like,
oh, God.
Thanks for saying that, buddy. I think I'll swim. I think I'll swim an extra lap today.
Right.
Yeah. So, what else would you, is it true that sometimes people will, file for disability, they're getting their claim, 5 years later out of nowhere, they say, no more, no moss.
Yes.
Quite a bit. Why does that happen? Because I've been reading the Dental Town boards probably 3-4 hours a day since 1998. And sometimes people just post, what the hell? I mean, they never even saw this coming. They've been collecting the claim for 5-6 years, and all of a sudden they get a letter that no more.
What usually happens is the insurance company will contact one of the doctors through one of their doctors and get a letter like what I described, or they'll do surveillance. Those are probably the two things that result in the most denials of claims, kind of manipulation of the treating providers. One type of treating provider that is unfortunately very easily manipulated are surgeons, because surgeons like to think they did the surgery, it was a successful surgery, clinically successful, and therefore you're fine. I had a successful surgery, but I can't move my neck the way a normal person can. I couldn't, operate on someone or look into someone's mouth, or, I have some radiculopathy. I couldn't work with fine instruments. And so they'll talk to the surgeon. Surgeons are historically very busy too. And they'll say, yeah, it was a good surgery. Everything was done accurately. I think that he's, back to where he used to be, but they don't understand the specifics of practicing in dentistry. And so one of the things that's really important to do, and what we do, is we try to educate the primary care doctor on exactly what you do as a dentist. So if a call comes in from the insurance company, you can explain, you've already explained to your doctor, look, this is why I can't work in my own occupation. A lot of doctors too don't understand what disability means. They think it means like, the dictionary definition. It means that you're helpless. But when you buy one of these expensive policies, that's not what disability means. It means you're unable to work as a dentist, as a clinical dentist practicing dentistry. That's something very, very different. And so many doctors don't realize that. And when the insurance company says, oh, is he still disabled? They'll say, oh, no, he's not disabled. He's totally fine. He's not in a wheelchair. So I think an important thing to realize is that the companies rarely educate the treating doctors on what it means to be disabled under the policies. And so they end up taking advantage of that.
And this 25-year-old kid driving to work, she's probably wondering, what does something like this cost? I mean, how much is this way? Is it a monthly payment? Is it a once-a-year payment?
There are different options. I think it depends on how much you get in coverage. Most people who I represent have policies in the range of probably $7,500 a month to $20,000 to $30,000 a month.
That's not their premium. That's what the benefit.
That's the benefit amount.
And you're saying 7,500 to 22,500?
Excuse me, $7,500 a month on kind of on the low end, to $20,000 or $30,000 on the high end. So a lot of like dentists who do implants and cosmetic procedures and who have very successful practices can qualify for very large, indemnities. A lot of endodontists, periodontists.
Well, it would have to be over $15,000 a month benefit just to cover your alimony payment, wouldn't it? Okay, so if I'm 25 and I buy a policy, and let's say I buy one that's going to be $10,000 a month, the premium and benefit will never change till I'm 65, and then 10 years later I get divorced and slap with a $12,000 a month alimony payment, and then I get disabled, and now I'm making $10,000 a month, and my alimony is $12,000 a month. How does something like that work? Because half the marriages fail.
That's a great question. And I think that one of the things, well, there are two things that you can do. One is that you can seek a modification of the alimony payment from the court because there was a change in circumstances because you became disabled. The second thing that you can do if you have a true own occupation policy is you can collect the $10,000 monthly indemnity and you can work in another occupation. So, I mean, a lot of my clients, go back to school to become attorneys, or they teach at the dental school. I have a lot of clients who are professors at the dental schools here. You can make over $100,000 in addition to your benefit amount if you have the true own occupation policy.
Most of the dentists I know that are disabled, it was from getting their finger caught in a wedding ring. But you're saying it's occupation. So another person might be sitting there thinking, okay, I'm a fitness person. I swim, bike, run, yoga, and everything. I'm not going to have Howard's bad neck. I'm not going to do direct vision. He's an idiot. I'm this. So other than arthritis, bad posture, whatever, what are other reasons people get disabled?
I have several clients who have problems with their eyes, glaucoma, that sort of thing, Parkinson's disease, early onset Parkinson's disease, hand tremors, essential tremors. People don't come to me if they're paraplegic, or you're quadriplegic. They come to me when they have conditions that, with dentists, the thing with the types of conditions that most dentists suffer from, and the reason why they're the easiest conditions to undercut is because they're slowly progressive. You start having back pain or neck pain or an essential tremor or glaucoma or Parkinson's disease, and it happens slowly. So what happens is finally you have enough and you're like, I can't do this anymore. I went down from 5 days a week to 4 days a week, and now I'm just going to quit. And then the insurance company says, well, last week you worked 30 or 40 hours a week, and this week you say you can work 0 hours. What's the difference? What gives here? That doesn't make any sense. Can't you work 25 hours? But there's some qualitative differences, obviously. I mean, if you're working in pain, you're distracted. You could hurt a patient because that's all you're thinking of. And it's difficult to figure out exactly when to quit. Dentists have to sell their practices. And if you stop working completely, you're going to get a fire sale price on your practice. At the same time, if you file a disability claim, when you've been working, 40 hours a week, the company's going to question why, now that you've sold your practice, why you're seeking to collect benefits now. They're going to make it look as though it was a choice or a retirement option for you rather than a legitimate claim. Yeah,
I never thought about that until you said that. Obviously, if you're a quadriplegic, the insurance company would not be denying your claim. So you're getting all the closer, the 50 shades of gray in the middle. You're not getting the black and white cases.
Right. What we have here is, we have a much different definition of disability than what the normal public is aware of. And so it's much easier for a dentist to be considered disabled. The insurance companies are hoping that the jury is looking more towards what the regular definition of disability is. And so they look at these kind of closer cases and they're like, this guy looks healthy, you've got a kink in your neck, you might be twisting it a little bit. Why can't you work all the time? And the jury's going to look at you and say, yeah, you look perfectly fine. Like if you looked at me, you would think, why can't this person work? Well, I can, but I've got to explain to the jury that we're talking about not being able to work within your own occupation. And so, yes, we handle the closer cases, but this is also very good insurance. So it provides you coverage in situations that most people would say, well, you don't look disabled to me, but that's the product that's being offered to you, and you're entitled to buy it. And if you become disabled because you have a condition that doesn't make you look disabled, but is nevertheless disabling to your ability to safely practice, you're entitled to collect your benefits.
What I don't understand is looking at your absolutely perfect teeth, stunning smile. How did you pick law instead of dentistry? What went wrong in your childhood to steer you? I mean, God gave you $1 million smile, and you picked law.
I think I was much more adept at learning about the law and how to get around things than I was at science. I'm not, with my dentist clients and my doctor clients, you're all very good at saying, 2 + 2 = 4, and this is an absolute, and this is an absolute, and memorizing this stuff and knowing it and being precise and perfect. What I do and what kind of I'm good at is kind of looking at the nuances, and that's what lawyers do. You have to. As a kid, I was like that. I would always kind of figure out, like, if my mom said, you can't do this, maybe I could figure out that actually doesn't mean what she said. And so I just have I think more of a talent in that area.
And out of all the areas of law, what made you pick disability?
Well, I think I handled a few of these cases right after I graduated from law school, and I thought that they were very rewarding. I thought that there was a misperception on what makes doctors disabled, and that was being capitalized on by the insurance companies, and juries weren't understanding what was going on. And I like working with doctors. I mean, you're intelligent. It's easy to talk to you. You're typically compliant with directions and advice. So, working with doctors is something that I like, and I admire what you all do. So I just started doing it, and then the more cases I started working on, the more I kind of developed a reputation for this. And then, once you start doing something a lot and kind of being known for it, that's what you get. And so that's how I ended up developing this niche.
And you did wonders for my friend. Thank you for that. But I want to get back to, I got my MBA from Arizona State University. And the one thing they beat in my head on my MBA program is that 80% of decisions still come down to price. When I got out of school, focus groups to the rage. And they'd have 10 people around the table, and they'd say, well, would you pay more? Would you pay a penny more for a Q-tip? It was all made from biodegradable and made in America instead of China. And people say all this crap, and then they walk into Walmart, and if the one from a communist country with no labor laws is 1 penny cheaper, so price is clarity. And I think I interrupted you in trying to answer, but this 25-year-old girl, she's driving out, she's still wondering, how much is this policy and how much money should I get? And you've been doing this for decades. So if I'm 25, should I get the lowest cost premium and get $7,500 a month for worst case scenario? Should I get a $20,000 premium, $30,000? And let's just say the premiums gave you a benefit of $10,000 a month versus $20,000 a month versus $30,000 a month. What kind of difference in premium is that? I mean, are you versed in premiums a little bit?
I'm not very good at knowing about that. I mean, I don't sell the insurance, and when clients come to me, I typically don't learn from them because it's not relevant to their cases how much they ended up paying in premiums. I know it's expensive, and I know that the better policies cost more. But in the last analysis, you want to have the best policy when you file a claim, and you want it to be for the highest indemnity. No one thinks they're ever going to become disabled, but with dentists, it's a real issue. I mean, it really is. I mean, I'm sure that you have a lot of friends who are in their 50s and 60s and have decided to slow down. It's just becoming too taxing on them. It's a very difficult profession, especially if you're doing a lot of work. Chair dentistry is it's very hard on you.
And you said something really interesting, like I have some friends that are that should file for disability for things like MS. But the thing is, when an average American thinks someone with MS, they think of it as very late stages of MS where they're incapacitated. But in the very earliest of stages, it's very hard to do a root canal when your hand's getting numb and your fingers don't move. And so what you're saying is very neat. And you also gave insight to me is that because some people say, well, this guy was disabled, but when I drive home from work, he's out there in his front yard playing basketball. Well, yeah, it's a hell of a lot easier to throw a foot-wide ball
Right.
than hold a number 15 endo file and find the
Right.
mesial buccal canal. I mean, that's just two different skill
Well,
sets.
the issue, if I could address this, I think you bring up a great issue, is what we call presenteeism, which is that doctors are making a certain amount of money and they're at the early stages of a particular condition. It is affecting them, but they're choosing to continue to work anyway. Unfortunately, I have a lot of clients that come to me and they'll say, I have an essential tremor or I have whatever, but I need to continue working because I didn't buy, a high enough value policy. Well, these doctors are exposing themselves to a lot of liability in a variety of respects. One way is obviously a malpractice claim that's filed against you. And if a malpractice claim is filed against you and the plaintiff finds out that you had this condition and you never reported it to your board, then it's possible that the insurance company might not pay may not pay out on the claim. They might say that you essentially defrauded them. So there's a possibility that you can get crossways with your own malpractice insurance company. There's definitely on your reinstatement applications for dentistry, for example, here in Arizona, every couple of years, I think you have to fill them out. There are questions on there specifically that ask if there's any condition that impacts your ability to practice. And if you don't disclose that and deal with the board on that issue, and something happens later on down the line and the board finds out about it, your license can be suspended or taken away from you or revoked. So there are a lot of risks associated with continuing to practice when you shouldn't. So my best advice to new dentists is buy the insurance up front so you're not confronted with these types of Hobbesian choices where you have to figure out, am I going to continue to work because I have to, but I've got glaucoma and I'm not doing my best work. I used to be an A dentist who did great work, and now I'm skimping on margins and my work is not what it used to be, and I could end up getting in trouble. Or are you gonna just file your claim and get a less, the lesser amount that you bargained for? It's a difficult choice for doctors to make, and that's why it's important at the very beginning to buy the highest value amount policy with the best coverage and the best definitions. And
you said the range of policy you see is $7,500 a month benefit to $2,250 or to $30,000. You've seen $30,000?
Up to $30,000 is what I've seen.
You've never seen higher than $30,000?
I have not. And and this is, if you pay for the policy with after-tax dollars, the benefits are tax-free. So if you're making, at least under current under the current tax regulations. So if you're making like $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year, that ends up being actually quite a bit more money. It ends up being like $160,000 or $70,000 a year because you're not paying taxes on that. So that's something to consider as well.
I want to stay on price because anybody classically trained in business, you should spend a lot of your time on price. Is there a benefit of how I'm going to get handled if I try to bundle this with my disability, with my malpractice, with my life insurance? I mean, should I be looking for a company thinking that, well, if I buy 5 products from him, I'm a better customer? Does bundling, is that an issue?
That's interesting. I'm not aware of that occurring. I mean, I know that some people use one agent to buy multiple products, and there might be some sort of discount that's applied, but I haven't been privy to any kind of discounts through bundling. Mm-hmm.
And do you think I have a claim with my disability since I can still do dentistry, but I can no longer be a Chippendale? It's just
you absolutely come talk to me.
Come talk to me because it's hard dancing with my with my neck, and hanging upside down on a pole is just
right.
It's just out of the question. Well, I've only got you for 5 more minutes. Is there anything? If you have 5 minutes, what would you be telling us? They're driving to work. They left an hour ago. They're 5 minutes away from their office. What would be your closing remark? Just.
I think we
go for the close.
We talked about buying the best insurance possible on the front end. I think on the back end, what people need to do is be very prepared when they file their claim for disability insurance benefits. I think before anyone files a claim, they should actually talk to an attorney so that they can get everything in line and make sure that they don't do anything to prejudice their rights. It's like, with dentistry, it's a lot easier to do something right the first time than to fix it after the fact. So you just want to be prepared. If you go onto our website, there's a lot of useful information that can help you be prepared. A lot of people retain attorneys to help them with the process, and that can be helpful. You want to make sure that you get someone who really knows what they're talking about in this particular industry. Ask the attorney questions, like the types of questions that you're asking me, to see if they know about the industry. I'm lucky in that, there are only a handful of companies that we're dealing with, and I have a relationship with in-house counsel at almost all of these companies. So, we're aware of the industry practices because we've sued the companies, we've deposed their executives, and we know what's going on. And so when you know what the practices are, it's much easier to kind of manage the risk and make sure that people who are legitimately disabled get paid when they're supposed to get paid.
And can these 5,000 podcast listeners look forward to a day where you might do an online CE course, maybe?
Absolutely, I'd love to.
That 3-hour course, maybe you'll put that online.
Absolutely.
And I still think the even better thing, the best thing would be is that if you bought disability insurance, but this Terry Roach taught you how to never get an injury.
Absolutely.
I want to meet that person.
She's very, very good. She's very, very good. And I mean, after I was injured, she improved my stamina and ability to sustain positioning a lot through exercises and posture changes and the like. And I think she's even has CDs or videos that can kind of teach people what to do.
Well, that was an amazing hour. Your reputation is golden in the backyard. You really helped my friend. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for giving me an hour of your time. I expect I'm going to get billed for this, right? I mean, you are an attorney. How are you going to email me the bill, or will it be from the U.S. mail? But seriously, dude, you're a great guy. You're a great attorney. You got all kinds of awards. I didn't read your bio like I should have, but you're an outstanding attorney, and you have a golden reputation. You help my friend, and thank you for all that you do for my dental colleagues in the great state of Arizona and around the United States.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Nice.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.